Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, bitch, I'm sipping on this Henny like somebody told me not to. I do what I want, you niggas doing what you got to. Got a brand new bitch and it's not you. Put these tats on my face, ma said not cool. I got cash in the bank, I'm like a damn fool. I pulled the cat out that hat like I'm Doc Seuss. East Coast to the West, that's a Pac move. I gotta make it to the top, I cannot lose. I need money that look way more than decent. I be in the cut cause I be trying to duck the precinct. Fire Athena better than the Mona Lisa. Listen up real quick, I get you hip to this thesis. Keep a couple pieces of that candy, Reese's. Keep a couple straps on you handy, they creepin'. Bitch, and I know who got the work if you fiendin'. Better not act stupid though, I ride with them demons. Cállate la boca, can't you see a nigga scheming? One more shot of Henny, I'ma have that pussy leaking. I do what I wanna when I wanna and it's frequent. And I won't trust a bitch cause they always got secrets. Bitch, I'm sippin' on this Henny like somebody told me not to. I do what I want, you niggas doing what you got to. Got a brand new bitch and it's not you. Put these tats on my face, ma said not cool. I got cash in the bank, I'm like a damn fool. I pulled the cat out that hat like I'm Doc Seuss. East Coast to the West, that's a Pac move. I gotta make it to the top, I cannot lose.
Yo, it's good. It's your boy, E.B.H. Black. Everybody hate black. It's the E.B.H. Black Show, y'all. What's good to you, Casey? What's good? I don't know if y'all missed that intro. I jumped right into it. It was a video I was showing about a case that's going on that's seems to be pretty popular because it hit my radar. It's the Petito case, the Gabby Petito. And I don't know if you guys know about that case. If you're on TikTok, you probably heard of it because I think it's like 600 million people hacking into that. And so if you didn't get a chance to see my intro, go ahead and go into the intro and watch it and even come back into the live so you can kind of understand what the nature of this topic is going to be about tonight. But what we're going to talk about is, would you turn your child in to the police if they were wanted for murder? Would you turn your child in to the police if you knew that they were wanted for murder? Love to come on this. They next door. Oh, they next door? Rude boy, for sure. Hey, I can drop you a link and you can come on. That'd be definitely great if you can come on because you can definitely give some insight because I'm all the way over here in California. And if you're in Facebook, if you're in Facebook, watching this through Facebook, go to the YouTube channel, please. Go to the YouTube channel because I might play some clips and they might shut it down on Facebook. So go to the YouTube channel. Casey, go to the YouTube channel. Okay, I'm gonna drop you the link, rude boy. And so basically, I'm gonna give a little bit background. So it was a guy named I think his name was Brian. And so him and Gabby was going on a cross country trip. And they are engaged and they're young. And so they were going across country and to go to some national parks and things like that. And then, long story short, she came up missing. But in between that, they were stopped by the police where they were fighting and people had called and they got pulled over. And so then a couple of weeks went by. She came up missing. He returned home and they didn't know where she was. He didn't come back with her. And so then a couple more days later, they found her remains, rest in peace. And now they're looking for Brian. Now Brian is missing. And so I'm gonna bring Rude Boy on because he's down there in Florida. So he's gonna definitely give us some insight about what's going on because this just recently hit my radar because I got a new YouTube channel called The People's Paralegal. Definitely go to that as well. I'm gonna drop the link for that where I'm gonna go into like in depth in this. I'm just gonna get, you know how the E.B.H. Black Show is. We go off top of the brain, you know what I'm saying? So right now I'm just gonna give, my initial thoughts and reaction after doing, a good 24 hours of paralegal type research. So, but the question is, when Brian came back and he went back home to his parents, he might have told them what happened, and then they didn't take him to the police. They're keeping him away from the police. So my question to you as parents, if your child possibly done something like murdered someone in this similar type situation, would you turn them into the police? Like, honestly, because I know I asked this question a few years ago when things like this happen, would you turn your child in? And most people will say no. But can you put in the chat, would you turn your child in if they were wanted for murder? Hey, thanks for hacking into the YouTube page, K Erotic Jordan. Hey, go add his page. If you just go add his page, take my word for it. So let me get that link for you, Rude Boy. Let me see. I'm putting it in the chat right now. Hopefully you can see it. Yeah, so would you turn in your child knowing that they were wanted for murder? Now, there's a lot of speculation, a lot of things that happens when things like this go nationwide. And so there's two schools of thoughts. There's a school of thought of the court of public opinion, then there's a school of thought of, the actual court of law. And so many people are saying that he's guilty for doing this, and we really don't know. It doesn't look good for him. It definitely looks suspicious. But let's say if your child came to you and said, "Hey, me and my girl got into a fight, or me and my dude got into a fight, and then accidentally killed them," and then you panicked, or not necessarily killed them, and something happened and you panic and you go home and then you tell your parents, "Hey, this is what happened." As a parent, are you going to help them out of that? What would that look like? K-Rodic says, I'll probably say, if you don't turn yourself in, I'm going to tell them where you're located. Okay. That's pretty good. Because that is a tough position to put your kid in. And so let me see. I got my boy Rude Boy. Rude Boy.
What up, yo?
What's good, brother?
Can you hear me all right?
I hear you perfectly. You sound great. Thanks for hacking in, man, for sure.
Yeah,
He's a long time. Hey, he's in that E.B.H Black group too, the Facebook group. So make sure you join that. And you always got some good jewels for us, man. So give us some insight on some stuff that we might not even know about. Because like I said, I'm all the way over here in California and I'm just not hearing about it. So maybe you can drop some knowledge for us.
So, I mean, as far as a local perspective goes, I don't know that there's a whole lot local other than the area that you were talking about, Northport, is largely a white right-wing area.
Mm-hmm.
The folks that came down are coming down from New York. I'm from Brooklyn. Before that, I lived in Western New York, so I've been all over the state. Most of the folks that I've seen that are coming down here in this area are not from the city. So they tend to be more right wing, whatever. My guess is they had 10 days before they started looking for them around here. If the kid came back, he got lost quick. I mean, it's not like if they're coming down from New York here, they've got a little bit of money because they're picking up an extra house. That's what most of the people from up north are doing. They're not moving down here permanently. They're picking up a second house.
Okay.
And that's just the perspective there. Now, you've seen very recently the Durst family up in New York City, billionaire family, where one of the brothers was on the run for, I don't know, 10, 20 years over Europe, and he came back because of COVID, and they finally just locked him up. Now, my perspective on this is totally different, because my thought is the police are out here doing whatever the hell they want, and it really doesn't matter what your race, creed, color, whatever. It's all about doing whatever the hell they want, and it really doesn't matter. I'm getting an echo. Am I still on there? Creed, color, whatever. It's all about.
Can you hear me?
I hear you now.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. Um, so anyway, at this point, they're going to frame people if they want to frame them or not frame them if they don't want to frame them when it comes to your children. Most of the people that they are picking up for any crimes are because they need more prison labor. It doesn't matter whether they did whatever crime or not. And in some cases, people are doing crimes because they literally don't have a lot of other options. They're out here talking about, oh, there's all these jobs, none of the jobs are paying people anything. So for the most part, and this goes back to the 80s and stuff too, people who are doing crimes are doing it because government has shut off opportunities to make money legally in so many different ways. So they've tended towards going after particularly people of color, particularly if they're in low income communities, but they'll go after whomever if they need to take somebody down a notch because for whatever reason they think it's an issue. So for this reason, for literally decades, I have been outspoken against police brutality and calling for demands that police are accountable. So under no circumstances would I ever subject my children to go under a situation where I know that they're being put into slavery, literally, because that's the process they're doing. Now, people don't know me, so they don't know what my children look like, and that's fine. If they did know me, whatever.
It'd be different.
They're literally, they are what they are.
Yeah.
But I have every reason to believe that police would be looking out and trying to pick up my children for not doing a thing wrong. I know I stand out in front of my house here, and I have people that I know are known criminals, but they're trying to live their life straight around me because that's just who they are. And they're looking at me because I'm around them. It's like, look, I don't have a bunch of money. This is where I live.
Right.
That's what it is. So under no circumstances would I ever subject my children or anybody's children to the criminal justice system, because the entire defense system, you get a public defender, all they're trying to do is push you through the system. They're part of it. Both sides.
Right. And so one thing that I'm seeing that is going on is like a built-in narrative already. It's almost like they have this guy already convicted. And so because all the circumstantial evidence and things like
The
that.
circumstances are pretty clear. The other thing that you've seen regularly, like they first have him as a person of interest, and that means it's just the law enforcement are going after them, and they're like, pretty please come in, we'll be nice. And now they've issued warrants for him. So, once you issue warrants, that's like saying, okay, posse up, anybody who wants to go out there, bounty hunters, go crazy.
Right. And so so you're saying like that they have this agenda to kind of like perpetuate this system of putting people in jail, like and that's pretty common there, right? Would you say?
That's in general. In Florida in particular, this guy is most likely from a rich family. That's why he's given a 10-day head start. Because remember, he came back something like September 1st, and they weren't reporting her missing till September 10th.
Right. So he could be long gone.
That's a long time to figure out what you're going to do. If he's responsible, and I don't know, if he's responsible, he had a long head start that they gave him.
So what do you think? Do you think he is? Do you think he's still alive? Do you think he's hiding out? Do you think in another country? I know we don't know, but like, just best guess.
If he's a good guy, then somebody's after him for whatever, and he could be gone, like just done. If he's a bad guy and he actually did it, then I'd say he's hiding out. Literally where we are, you can get on a boat 5 miles from his house. Takes you right to the Gulf of Mexico. And you're about 180 miles from Havana.
Oh, wow. It's that close.
It's that close. You get on a speedboat and they're plenty. And you're there. And I mean, if you know the Caribbean at all, Havana, you know, slightly further, you got Jamaica, pop over, you got Haiti, you'll definitely get lost in. Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, all the way down through the chain. There's plenty of places to go if you got money.
Man, I think he might have, his parents might have some money. I would like to, I think my gut is telling me that, my mind is telling me that he's gone. He's out of here. But my gut tells me that there's going to be some kind of court case that plays out. So that would require him getting caught. So, I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
I don't,
what about, you remember all those years ago, the girl that disappeared in Aruba, I think it was, on a spring break? And they never did anything about that for years and years and years. Eventually, I think they finally figured it out that it was like a guy that was on the spring break with her.
Oh,
and it
really?
was a rich kid. And they were sweeping it under the rug because it wasn't the locals. If it was any of the locals, they would have come down hard and found it quickly. But the fact they didn't was how you pretty much knew, oh no, it's probably the Americans killing people again. I mean, that's how Americans do, right?
Right. So basically you saying you would not subject your kids to the process of the justice system in a situation like this? Because I don't think I would.
My children's mother is a former prosecutor in the Manhattan District Attorney's Office and currently works for Bill de Blasio's office, pretty high up. So, you know, if it's anywhere up near her, she's going to get it swept under the rug before anybody comes for him. If it's anywhere near me, I already know that all the law enforcement right here are racist as hell. I ain't dealing with them. There's no way in hell that they're coming for my kids under any circumstances, because there's no way in hell I think that they're going to get a fair process.
Right.
And that's, I mean, my kids, there's not a chance that they would have murdered anybody. Yeah, self-defense, possible. Murder, not a chance. That's my kids. I just know that.
Yeah, that's a very fair point. That's a very fair point that, you know, it could have been a self-defense thing because, you know, on the way to Utah, they got stopped by the police. And so then, you know, that interaction makes it look like that they were fighting. And just like in the media right now, they're spinning the narrative that he was abusive to her when in fact she was the one abusive to him. And that's
a common thread. I mean, that's forever. Every single relationship you ever hear about, it's always about the man's the abusive one. As far as my understanding was, when they got stopped, they were separated for the night. She was told to stay in the van. She had no marks on her, and he had marks all over his face from her nails, apparently. And he was put in the hotel room for the night. And after the night, apparently, they went on their way. I don't know the circumstances. It literally, the question that I'm brought on here for is about, you know, as a parent and the criminal justice system.
Right.
So from that perspective, there's no question as a parent that I don't trust the criminal justice system. I don't trust what's going on with both the GOP and the Democratic Party as far as what happens. Essentially, you either have connection to power or you're put through the system, however they want to flush you through the system. That's what happens.
Right. And that's a good frame to keep it in, because let's assume, and we're going to assume that this is the frame of thought of this guy's parents, right? So he comes back, right? And he was like, Mom, Dad, look, we got into it, that we even got stopped. This happened. I went in, got into an argument, whatever, self-defense, it was an accident, whatever happened, right? And then they
Right.
come back, and he comes back and he says, you know, this is what happens. And so they say, I can't trust the justice system. So what we got to do is get you off the grid, or whatever their thought process was. That's kind of what it looks like to me now, because bless you. And it is what it looks like that they're doing now, is keeping him away. And I think at some point he's going to resurface, but he's going to have attorneys and all these things present for him in order for them to see what this case is going to play out like. So with that being said, isn't that really the smartest way to go about it? Because you don't have him, you don't have all this mountain of evidence coming. Everything is circumstantial right now. You don't have evidence of things going on without him, being
When it
present.
comes down to it, I don't care who you are and how guilty your child is. If you want them to get off, it seems all you have to do is use the Trump playbook. You deny, and you do not have direct contact with people. You keep saying no, you go away, you walk away, and wasn't me. I don't know what you're talking about. And that seems to work. If you have any kind of power whatsoever, you just keep lying to people, and that seems to work. That's what I see happens day after day. I sat there in courtrooms a number of years ago, and day after day I would watch people blatantly lying in the courtrooms.
Right.
And it's not even a question that they're lying. And everybody in the courtroom pretty much knows that they're lying, but they're allowed to do that. And this is the system we're in. We've got a place now where cops are, are allowed to lie to anyone they want during while they're pursuing their case. Now, if they're allowed to lie to anyone they want, they're going to lie to the parents too. Why would anybody trust the police?
Right. That's facts.
They're
definitely
legally allowed to just lie to you.
Right. Doing an investigation, they're allowed to lie to you to paint a perception to get you to confess on yourself.
So they're like, oh, your kid's definitely guilty. Whoops. Okay. Don't know where he is. Well, your kid's probably just fine. Just bring him in. Still don't know where he is.
Right. Deny, right?
It's law enforcement. This country, law enforcement has a direct history that comes out of slave patrols. That's why they exist in this country, and that's what they continue to do in this country. They continue to hunt down people. The enforcement is very targeted. They pick whichever neighborhood or community they're going after. All you have to do is cause poverty, and you will raise crime. Once you raise crime, you can go after whoever you want, pick them up, and put them at prison labor. Florida is the worst because they don't even pay their prison labor.
Wow.
It's straight slavery, and it was allowed under the Constitution. When they were all set to get rid of slavery entirely, they quickly made an exception for prison labor. We've had it ever since. And you can see the bullshit that excuse my language, but I guess my shit's going for that anyway.
I know, right? You good.
So, yeah, as far as that goes, when you literally have Republicans working for the Customs and Border Patrol, whipping Black people, Haitians, seeking asylum here under a Democratic president, segregationist, we might as well throw in. What do you expect? They're both the same. It's the same thing under Trump, under Biden. It's the same thing. They're both the law enforcement. They're both pushing down on the people. They're both, it's power and money pushing down on poverty and beating it violently. That's what fascism is. It's corporatism and fascism are the same thing. It's greed and hate as opposed to love and community. That's the difference of the people on the bottom who are trying to work together with each other. That's the difference of trying to have a safety net. That's the idea behind Social Security. That's why this country set it up. That was the idea behind food stamps that we decide we want to get rid of. That's the idea behind universal health care, which we desperately need. How many people in this country are suffering from mental illness, particularly those with no access?
Right. That's big facts. So what this conversation tells me that there's like a really big conversation that needs to be had, so we can reform some things, because there is like a innate distrust of law enforcement. I know at least from the African American Black community, any minority community. This
It's not
person,
just you saw on January 6th, you saw distrust from Trump's people
right?
on the steps where they were more than happy to scream down and beat cops so that they could get into the Capitol to try to kill the vice president. Hang Mike Pence. That's literally what they were chanting.
Mm-mm-mm.
They don't like cops either, but they say, oh, the cops are on our side. So essentially, it's not about whether or not they care about law enforcement. It's about whether or not they think these people are their personal gang.
Oh wow.
State
Yeah.
terrorists. That's literally what they are for the right wing.
Wow.
Badges and guns working for the right wing. That's disgusting. That's brown shirts. If you want to go back to Nazi Germany, that's what brown shirts were right before they completely took over. But
Wow.
hey, welcome to America. We got climate change coming down the pike and nobody seems to care.
Yeah, we have a lot of issues here in America, but like definitely, it's a lot of things that even went on in that case because they let the woman go after she admitted that she assaulted him. Like if it was a man in that situation, he would have went to jail. So it's kind of hard to dictate what the police standard is,
Well,
because
and that's
it's
not
double
totally the
standard.
standard even. And I'll give you an example. I have a good friend. She's from Brooklyn, but she was with the Metropolitan District Police, which police department, which is DC. Um, she was a lieutenant married to a captain. He comes home, knocked up another chick. He's gonna keep it. The lieutenant punches him in the eye. She happens to be black and he's white. Punches him dead in the eye. Got one shot in. My understanding from her, just from her, that he then beat the shit out of her, called the police. They show up. She's dark skinned. You can't see bruises all over her. And he's got a big shiner. She got taken off, and that was it for her. Now, other circumstances where I've seen had bruises on the guy, the police are there because the wife going through a divorce called them and is lying about a temporary order of protection that doesn't exist. And the police literally see the bruises, and his attorney says, no, don't send her to jail because it's only going to hurt you financially somehow.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
And that lawyer is about to pick up $500,000 is my understanding.
So it's definitely not black and white, and it's definitely not all the time either. It's just
It's power. It's money and
power.
power.
Definitely. Yeah, thank you for hacking in, giving your insight on that because these are the conversation that we do not have, and I do want to go deeper into this. Um, I just think that's just a hard position for a parent to be in, but really not really if you think about all things considered. I don't know how this is going to play out, but I don't know. I think that most people will not turn their children in to the authorities. That's just what I would.
The sad thing is, and literally this is from reading comments because you posted this in your Facebook group earlier.
Right.
The sad thing that I saw was a whole lot of people in the, I'm pretty sure, Black American community, that were like, well, because over the years there's been such a, I'd like to say, indoctrination about, well, the kids aren't doing anything good on the corner. I mean, I've literally seen kids in Brooklyn getting harassed for being in the park. What are you doing here? In the park. Less than 18. Isn't that where I'm supposed to be? Staying out of trouble? And that's I mean, if you can't be anywhere, that's the original Kevin and Karen's. Is it Kevin? I don't know.
I was about to say
the
that's
original
what they call
ones.
them in. Yeah, I know what they call Karens.
I don't know what the guys is, but that, I mean, literally where they just harass people for just being. And isn't that whole idea of Black Lives Matter, right?
Right.
Like, just, it's the bare minimum, just matter. And the idea that people have a problem with Black lives even mattering, just to even matter,
right?
That's sick.
Yeah, I totally agree. So yeah, we're gonna keep updating this. I just want to jump on here real quick just to ask the people, what would you do? And like you said, when I went to my page, I saw most of the people say that they would not do it. And I kind of think that's a good representation of,
But
what
you did see that they started off saying that they were going to turn them in, the first few.
Yeah, and some people would.
And I noticed it's interesting because after they got the idea that, oh, that doesn't have to be the answer, maybe that's my guess of how it came about, but they saw a couple answers where they're like, I don't know, and all of a sudden people are like, you know what, let's come out and say I don't know, or no, because it was more acceptable. I kind of think that's how it went down. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, you're right, because the first 3 people said they would, and then you responded, and then
a
after
woman after me, I think it was
Yeah.
a woman after me, responded, and
it was possible, depending on what the situation was. And then I had to go down that rabbit hole with her, like, what if it was this, because a lot of people might not be aware of what this case is. And then people were saying possible, nah, possible, absolutely not. So they started to, look into the question more, like, if it's possible. And then I was saying, well, basically, if your child comes to you and say that they didn't do it, you're going to believe them. So that's why I threw the possible, because you don't really know.
I mean, let's just even go the worst route. Let's take the worst route. Your child comes to you and is like, "Yo, I did it." Be like, you know me, you know how I am.
Right.
I'm sure people look at me and they assume that's why I put the shirt on. It's ironic, but don't worry about that.
I like that.
But people make those assumptions about me all the time. So, if your child actually came to you and says, yes, I did it, and whatever, if your child's the worst of the worst, and I can't personally picture this, but the worst of the worst, your child's the worst of the worst, and they come to you and say, I did it, aren't they asking for help? And that's still your child.
Right.
Like,
that's an excellent point.
Right?
Yeah, that's an excellent point.
Especially at this point in the pandemic.
Yeah, no, that's a real excellent point, because I know things that people said that they would support their child on that's not as serious as this, but they say, well, my child is my child, I love my child unconditionally. So if you love your child unconditionally, how does that play into that?
I mean, I think that's how it plays in. I think if your child truly did something terrible, awful, whatever, and you figure out what the process is, that there is some kind of accountability, that whatever, I don't know.
Right.
I don't necessarily think that the criminal justice system is going to get it right. So I don't know what the answer is, except that I know that currently the criminal justice system's messed up, and currently we still haven't dealt with so many issues going all the way back with the criminal justice system. When you came out of apartheid in South Africa, they had Peace and Reconciliation Commission. From the reviews I've heard from a variety of people, it had some success, not entirely successful.
Right.
But we need to start from scratch, if you ask me. Like, scrap what we have, because I don't think there's people like, oh, it's not all the bad apples in the cops. Come on. If there's one and the others know about it and they don't get rid of that one, then they all bad.
Yeah, that's what makes the whole bunch bad, for
They
sure.
all bad.
Yeah, for sure. Yep. Okay, brother, I thank you for your time. I'm definitely gonna hop off here. I'm sure I'm gonna talk on this some more. Like I said, I started a YouTube channel called The People's Paralegal, where I'm actually gonna go into the breakdown of the case, because they have a body cam of the interaction when the police stopped them. And then there's a lot of things that's being pushed in that narrative that is so wrong. And I want to bring those things out, because what happens is, once the case happens, you're so biased that you think this person is guilty that you just ignore evidence, And so, like I said, they were saying that he was the one that was the aggressor when she was the aggressor. They were saying that they were just painting pictures that was untrue. I'm not saying that we'll do it.
The entire criminal justice system is set up that way, though.
It is.
As soon as they come out and say there's an issue, they've got a person, or they bring the person in. They're like, this is the person. They're not like, oh, this might be the person. We got our guy, or it's always a guy anyway. So we got our guy. And that's what it is. They've always said you can indict a ham sandwich, right? That's an old saying. Yeah. So if you can indict a ham sandwich and everybody goes along with peer pressure, and they throw out anybody that has any kind of critical thinking from the jury pool, they're left with a bunch of people who are just going to follow. The defense attorney already knows this, so the defense attorney is shoving a plea deal down the defendant's throat. You never had a chance. The only people who have a chance are the people who actually can afford a good private defense attorney, because they're going to actually mount a case, and they're going to make the prosecutor look stupid. So once again, it's rich and powerful that have the opportunities.
Right. You're absolutely right. I mean, even working in the legal system, that's how that works. If you have money, and you don't even have to work in the legal system, you just look at the OJ case. Like, he had the money to get off. That's what that was about. So yeah, so go ahead and go to the People's Paralegal YouTube page. Add that. That's already got a video on there that I did a couple days ago that was pretty good too. So I'm gonna do more things like that. But thank you, Rude Boy. Thank you for hacking in, because you always mess with us, bro. You always mess with us. So,
always.
We appreciate you. And Powerball Rich appreciate you too. Whenever he come from under the rock that he under, you know what I'm saying.
It's funny, because as a DJ and stuff, people never hear my voice, almost never, except when I'm singing by accident.
Oh, really? Shoot, bro. You got a lot of game, bro.
It's funny.
Yeah, you got a lot of insight, a lot of game. So I want to thank you, and you're free to come back anytime, man. Anytime.
My pleasure. Appreciate you.
All right, y'all. Thank y'all.
Right on. Bye-bye.